Dan is het nu tijd voor een speciaal internationaal blok met 3 hele bijzondere sprekers. Tientallen jaren lang, dwars door alle spanningen en actualiteit heen, legden en leggen zij verbanden tussen de VS, China en Europa. En in deze scherp gepolariseerde tijd, waarin Europa, maar wij ons allemaal eigenlijk afvragen wie nog onze vriend en wie onze vijand is, zijn dit mensen waarvan ik heel erg benieuwd ben naar hun kijk op de actuele gebeurtenissen, maar vooral ook in hun kijk op blijven samenwerken in tijden van zulke actuele spanningen. Hoe doen we dat? Hoe blijven we van continent tot continent, van land tot land, wel met elkaar samenwerken als de politiek zo scherp gepolariseerd is? Dat geldt voor de VS en Europa, maar het geldt ook voor China, laten we eerlijk zijn, al jaren. De laatste 15 jaar sowieso. Please welcome our 3 international keynote speakers, Jun, Yves, Leterme and Manny Menendez. And each of these gentlemen will present his vision on the opportunities and challenges of China, followed by some discussion and questions that I'm going to pose, but perhaps also people from the audience. So please, if you have a question, reserve it for the end of this presentation. And we start with Jun. After being global vice president at companies like Intel, Apple, and Nvidia, he decided to change his course, right? And now he is the CEO of Tojoy, a company that connects, listen carefully, that connects 6 million Chinese entrepreneurs and business people. He is one of the key people in accelerating and innovating China's business sector. And in the next minutes, he will share his vision with us. Please.
Thank you, Yves, for the nice introduction. And certainly I want to thank Ralph for allowing me to be the first speaker so that we can get this easiest subject out of the way. We can then get some serious business done for the day. Right? So life actually changes, does not because you have a major plan. It changes because sometimes you had a very important meeting, one right meeting that changes life. And today I'm here to talk about 3 stories. The story of myself and my story with the Netherlands, and also the story with the Big Improvement Day. In March last year, I brought about 10 Chinese entrepreneurs to The Hague. And that was the first time when I met Ralph.
Thank you.
And when he was introducing Big Improvement Day, I felt something very familiar. And he was saying something very simple. For Big Improvement Day, the idea is very simple. We want to connect people. People connect, then they have ideas. Then ideas can become actions. And I remember something very similar. Somebody told me that 35 years ago. And I remember that I had a picture in my phone. So I took out the phone and showed the picture to Ralph. And at that time, Ralph was very quiet. Then I saw tears in his eyes. And then I realized why. Because 35 years ago, I met the man in the picture. That's Ralph's father. And nobody expected that moment. So let me go back to the story where this really began. In 1991, I was 25 years old. And I got my first passport. And I got my first visa, as shown in the picture. And also, I got my first international trip. And that trip brought me to the Netherlands. And in Hague, here, I met Ralph's father. and your mother. And they were so warmly welcomed us to their house. And we talked for hours. At the end of the day, Ralph's father told me, June, you should not only go global, you should be the bridge for the two worlds. At that time, I didn't realize the meaning of it, but the words stayed with me. And when I didn't realize what he meant, actually the man did. I know Ralph's father went to China in the 60s. Then in late 70s, he started business with China. I guess that's the time, if I remember correctly. But I think he understood the business opportunity is economic, but there's something beyond that. The most important one actually is human, connecting human. Certainly, I didn't have the full picture of that, but what he said planted a seed in me. And that conversation basically gave me a lot of inspiration. So when I came back, and not for too long, I made a very important decision in my life. I quit a very senior position at China's one of the first 5 public listed companies, and I went overseas to study. And that was 35 years ago. And certainly a lot happened since then. I became the vice president of Intel. I became the vice president of Apple, and later NVIDIA. Over these years of working, people describe my career as technology, as scale. But in my heart, the job is very simple. It's all about being the bridge to help international companies to understand China better, to help Chinese companies to understand the world better. And over the years, I realized something important. I realized that it's the people is the most powerful bridge. People understand each other, people trust each other, people work together with each other, and certainly miracles could happen. And that was my learning. And over the years, certainly, people started to place trust in me, and good business starts. And I think what Ralph told me really resonated with me very well, because the philosophy of the big improvement is very simple. When you connect people, ideas start to move, actions start to happen. And that is really why I feel big improvement days matter. Now today, I see more than 600 leaders here. You are here not just for talking about improvement. You are here to create them. And those are very important activities. And every April, in fact, I experience something similar as what is happening here. I do my annual Grand Run speech to more than 2,000 Chinese entrepreneurs every year. And 3 million people watch online. Hundreds of innovative activities start to happen. And that is my action. And certainly, I would like to share a 1-minute clip of what I did and what I have been doing in China.
Spring, grain rain, a shared journey into vitality. Millions of people, millions of moments we gather as promised. This is not a speech about answers. This is to set out toward questions. 2024, Shenzhen, Inspired by determination to start anew, we reignite our courage. 2025, Chengdu, believed we paved rough roads. The way forward is clear and stable.
一张跨越了30多年的合影，见证了世界的变和不变。我希望能够向天再借一甲子，和各位朋友一起去这个世界再走一遭。一人百步，百人万步，我相信我们一定会走出一个属于中国企业的新大陆。
Be a bridge, connect bridges, merge countless I's into infinite we's. April 2026, Hangzhou, China. Let us continue this journey together.
Thank you. So today, taking today's opportunity, I really want to honor the man who actually placed his trust in me. And he not only offered encouragement, but offered directions. And that young man took action. And today, in front of his son, Ralph, I really want to say thank you. And also, I bring a gift for you. And that gift actually is from my daughter, who is 25 years old when I started my international journey. She is an artist, and she hand-assembled a picture album for you. And I want to present it to Ralph. Thank you. Yeah, the gift here is not a symbol of emotion. Actually, it's a symbol of continuity. Because bridges are not built for one generation. Now, this year, Tojoy, China's largest business accelerator, for which I chaired for 7 years, is being ready to go public. And the reason behind that is very simple. Because having a platform, we could connect business, and we can connect people. That's most important. And that's the reason behind going public for the company. Today, Tojoy connects more than 6 million Chinese entrepreneurs. We turn connection into actions. On April 20 this year, I will deliver my annual speech again in Hangzhou, China. And I would like to invite Ralph, your excellent team, as well as your friends in the big improvement ecosystem to join us in the China version of the Big Improvement Day. I hope. Certainly, we should work together to build more bridges for international business. And these bridges will become power, will change the world. Together, let's continue working on that. And if you are really looking for a bridge for China, you can count on me, because I will be your host, and my platform will help. So let me just close with one question. When was the seed of Tojoy planted? Was it planted when the company was founded? No. It was planted in 1991 by a man who believed that one big meeting, one important meeting can change life. And for that, I really want to thank you, Ralph. Thank you for your father and mother's encouragement, for which I would never forget. And thank you all.
Excellent. Good job. Good job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. How beautiful an example of één ontmoeting, what one meet, wat Ralf altijd zegt, can lead to. Amazing. It's an amazing story. So thank you for sharing this with us. We will continue with our second keynote speaker, well known in the Netherlands. Welcome to Yves Leterme, former Prime Minister of Belgium with extensive experience in European politics, as well as global economic cooperation, with a clear focus on China. The floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gijs, and thank you, Ralf, for having me here. Good morning to everyone. I'm indeed not coming from China, the US, a little bit closer. And I would like to take 7-8 minutes to walk you through the landscape that is the kind of backdrop for what's happening here, this big improvement day. Excellent initiative, by the way. The first is the factual reality. Although we follow the news and we know some trends, it's good to have the global picture. And of course, notwithstanding our resistance towards the proximity bias, being too close to reality to see the whole picture, and trying to resist also the negativity bias that we naturally have as human beings to be a little bit too pessimistic about what we see and the danger we encounter, I think it's fair to say that we are living in a kind of climate change, not only in terms of environment, but also in terms of geopolitics, with an accelerated collapse of the World War II originally created world order. The dynamics are, since quite a couple of decades, think about the Pacific pivot of Obama, but now it's acceleration, dilution of the multilateral order based on the Western so-called liberal values. So this is fading away, this is disappearing, won't ever come back. And the EU, against this backdrop, really faces existential challenges in terms of security, economy, and also its diplomatic weight, its political weight. I still put a question mark there, because with the ups and downs, you never know that people with some rationality in the US will take over and that we can come to a better dialogue again. But if things are continuing the direction they go now, I think this question mark could disappear and we could have the kind of end of the strong cooperation and strong sharing of values between US and Europe, the European continent, as the core of a broader Western concept of how human development and how society should be organized. The current US leadership is preaching unilateralism. I want this, I take it. I take my decisions, and the rest of the world has to adapt. I think that more or less will be the message today in Davos. At least that's what I fear. The US attitude currently is really disruptive. It's completely out of the box thinking. It's a good example of the acceleration in terms of decision making. A lot of decisions are short term. Mr. Trump meets Mr. Xi, and the conclusion is, well, he won't take over Taiwan as long as I'm president. Yeah, but that only lasts, let's hope, for 3 more years. It's concentrating on interests, and it's business first. Meanwhile, the European Union is created itself based on multilateralism, is an expression of multilateralism, is working very hard always in a term of continuity, has a multi-level approach in decision-making, a very complex, think about Kissinger, who do I call if I want to have European Union on the phone? It's very time-consuming in terms of decision-making, contrary to the acceleration. It's mid- and long-term thinking, and it's based on values and interests, sometimes behaving like we teach the world how to behave. And it's very much based on regulatory activities. So this is clearly a mismatch which won't be fixed anymore. Even after Mr. Trump, I think this will continue to create tensions between the EU and the US. We just have to live with it. If we then look at potentials of EU-China cooperation, because, well, Europe can to a certain extent be self-reliant, but we need openness to the world as a human body needs oxygen, so we have to look for partners. And Mercosur won't do it, and the kind of Mercosur agreement won't do it to the full extent. So the European Union has to look at China as a potential closer partner. When we see the characteristics of, and I summarize it in 1 minute, and of course it's more nuanced, but once again, European Union is really preaching and also practicing multilateralism, is very much oriented on free trade, is of course the incumbent, is the power that is, not the power to be. It's working on short and long term, mid-term, maybe not long term. And once again, it is promoting universal values. China is very much preaching and acting in the sense of multilateral approach to the challenges we are facing. I think lots of people know that today China is the most important contributor to the multilateral system, not only in terms of finances, but also takes key positions in the multilateral order. Is very much in favor of free trade. Remember the speech 2-3 years ago in Davos, where it were the Chinese that were promoting free trade, and it was the West that was starting the tariff war. It's the emergent power. Mr. Xi thinks in centuries, while the US thinks in days. It very much underlines the importance of sovereignty. Not only don't take Greenland or invade Venezuela, but also whatever the issues are in China, just keep aside, don't mingle into our internal policy, non-interference. It's important to know because we as European Union, we really have to intensify the cooperation now with China, turning away a little bit of other powers we're used to. But we should know that there are some common features in terms of how we organize policy making and how we see the world, but there are also diverging elements, and we should take them into account from the start. So what I would like to propose, and what I propose over the last decades in all kinds of places, is to come again to a constructive agenda. Globally speaking, maybe not you, maybe not the business people, that are starting from reality and trying to make the best out of it. But in the circles of policy making, since something like 10 years or so, we even increasingly still have a kind of skeptical approach to China. And so I think if we have to do one thing over the next 6 months to 1 year is to rebuild a constructive agenda. The golden age of the EU-China relations, and in terms also of global stability, was the period, I think, 2003-4 till 2012-13. It was the period where, including with China, we had very important common endeavors and common projects. It was very spectacular in terms of China with the Olympic Games in Beijing, with the international exhibition in Shanghai, but I remember that also from the European side. We had common projects at that time with China. And a positive, open approach and a constructive agenda is what we need now. What could be the content of such an EU-China agenda? And I hope that, well, Mr. Carney was, the leader of Canada, was in China a couple of days ago. Mr. Merz will travel to China, Mr. Starmer, Macron, and so on. So I hope that they will think about, and I'm quite sure that they will think about the issues that are here on the screen. I think a constructive agenda should be containing joining forces with China in defending the multilateral order. This is needed for China to continue the opening up dynamics, and it's of course needed for Europe. Once again, we cannot live without, as European Union, without open trade. We don't have the natural resources, we don't have the markets, and so on. We're reliant on energy, in terms of energy, on the rest of the world. Mitigate also together, in working together with China, try to mitigate the rising two blocks antagonism, which Mr. Trump is very much fueling. Of course, he bumps into limits. Think about the conversation in Busan with Mr. Xi, where the day before Mr. Trump said, I will teach him how to behave, and he has to buy my soya beans and no chips anymore no NVIDIA chips anymore to China. He came back, and Mr. Xi didn't move 1 inch, and Mr. Trump had to go back to the US with a totally different, more moderate language. But so joining forces in terms of defending the multilateral order, EU-China, mitigate rising two blocs antagonism. Number two, I think, and there's a negative tendency over the last 3-4 years since COVID, it is that we have to increase again the so-called track 2 exchanges, civil society, business exchanges, exchanges between NGOs, for instance, and Chinese peers to create win-win opportunities, the so-called shared future concept of Mr. Xi. This sounds quite obvious and quite simple, but it has to be done. And there are not sufficient signs today that people are working on that. And I think that one of the conclusions of this big improvement day could be, and I know that Ralph is working on it, that we concretely set steps towards China and vice versa in the next half year to a year. Number three, I think in this interaction with China, we should understand each other to the extent that we realize that there are some, let's say, vital interests in terms of security, safety, defending our economic interests. Fair enough, we have to do this, and we should respect each other to the extent that we understand that port areas, vital technology, security issues, that we take some measures to protect these from interference, from foreign interference, but we should limit it more. Today, schemes like the FDI screening, foreign direct investment screening, for instance, under American pressure have a very wide scope. We should limit this, to just give you one example. And we should adapt the vital interests narrative and the de-risking narrative, and we should adapt the existing setup to protect these, to promote these. 4, we should relaunch the comprehensive agreement on protecting investment. One of the good things Angela Merkel did, there is some criticism about nuclear energy and so on, but she invested a lot of energy at the end of her time as Chancellor in striking a deal about the protection of investment. European investors in China, they are still having some fear, some concern about the real opening of Chinese markets, repatriation of profits, and so on. And the comprehensive agreement on investment was there to guarantee, to safeguard these and to bring answers to these concerns. It was blocked in the European Parliament because of the situation with Uyghurs and so on. Well, at a certain moment we should take this up again and try to strike a new agreement on protection of investment. This would be a very constructive step forward in terms of the EU-China relation. We should strengthen the frameworks for technology transfer and market penetration. I think in the Netherlands they have learned that you should not do improvisation when you think about protecting your companies for takeovers by Chinese. Recent history has shown this. And so in electric vehicles, in digital technology, in AI even, we have an interest in interpenetration between the Chinese and the European market, and we should strengthen the frameworks for technology transfer. For instance, in the automobile sector, I am a little bit familiar with that business. It is clear that you should, at the end of the day, assemble your Chinese EV vehicles also in Europe. Why not have the same attitude as the Chinese have had and to have a conditionality in terms of technology transfer? Last but not, and this could of course also work vice versa. Last but not least, we should rebalance, especially in products and also in services, rebalance the trade with China. To conclude, I think there's a climate change in geopolitics. We have matching issues, problems with the new dynamics of US politics. We have some differences still with China, but it's clear that we have to make a kind of pivot increasingly to China again, take up again the very positive atmosphere of 2002, 2013, 14, with a constructive agenda, not a very abstract one, but one with concrete points, concrete action points, where it is not so much the political leadership that plays the first role, but it is people like you, it's the people that make the things move. And so I stop here. Thank you for your attention, and I hope we can set steps forward.
Thank you so much. And last, but certainly not least, I'm so happy he's here. I present to you Manny C. Menendez. Manny is one of the most experienced business leaders when it comes to US-China relations. He was involved in some of the very first joint ventures between China and the United States. And he also has a very special Chinese name given to him by a special person. But let's be honest, that is his story. Manny, thank you.
Thank you. First of all, before I begin, I just want to thank Ralph, and I've met his lovely wife last night, and thank you for having us, and also my good friend June for being part of the Tojoy team. So thank you, and Hayes, thanks for your kind introduction. So I'm just a simple business guy. I started going to China in 1979 when China opened up. Deng Xiaoping went to visit President Carter. Carter actually opened up China and did the free trade agreement with China right in the very beginning, and that was in 1979. And then 2 months later, I was in China trying to work out different types of deals. So I did the first US-China equity joint venture, built a food company, a food factory, Greenfield Food Factory in Canton, now known as Guangzhou, and I have not looked back. When I first went, the per capita income of China was about 50 cents per day, $150 a year, and now it's about $15,000 per year. So let me just go through the slides. Sorry. Take this. This is not Heineken, which is very popular in China, by the way. So if you look at the world GDP, just in round numbers, US GDP is about 30 trillion now, China is about 20 trillion, and the EU is about the same. So if you look at the three countries, the three areas, that's 61% of the world's GDP. We all have to work together. I mean, this block, these three blocks have to work together because it affects not only their areas, but it affects the world. So collaboration is the way to go forward. Understanding each other is important. Most people don't really understand China from the perspective of being on the ground. China is a huge market. It's a significant market that has changed in my lifetime from where it was in the beginning, where 10% of the population lived in cities and 90% lived in the rural areas, and now 70% live in cities, and it's changed. It's the largest migration in human history happened in China in my lifetime in the last 44 years. 400, 500 million people moved from the countryside to cities. China's GDP growth is incredible. As I said, 1978, the GDP was 150 billion. Now it's 20 trillion. China had a policy. A gentleman who gave me my name that Hayes referred to was the supreme leader of China. His name is Deng Xiaoping. In 1985, he honored me by giving me my Chinese name. Policy is important, and Yves hit on policy, but it's the people who implement the policy in China that has impressed me the most. Once the policy was opened, the Chinese people really worked hard to make it happen. So I can tell you, there's a famous Confucius saying, when people come from afar, you should welcome them and be happy. That's China. Anywhere you go in China, you'll be welcome. Anywhere in China, they'll treat you properly. This is one of the things I loved about going to China right from the beginning. Actually, Netherlands is part of the old maritime ancient Silk Road. So actually, China and during the Ming Dynasty was working with the Netherlands already and called on the ports in Rotterdam. So it's actually a long history between China and the Netherlands, especially on trade. Netherlands is China's second largest trading partner in the EU. The bilateral trade in 2025 was about almost $111 billion of trade. So there's a lot of activity actually between the Netherlands and China now. But one of the keys that most people don't realize is that private industry. When I first went to China, there was no private companies. Now, 93% of all the companies in China are private enterprises. The private sector is what's exploded in China, and it's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize. 50% of the tax payments that go to the government come from private enterprise. 60% of China's GDP is from private enterprise. 70% of all the technology development is from private enterprise, and 80% of all new urban jobs. SMEs and micro businesses are the driving force in the US for sure, and definitely now in China. That did not exist in 1980. It exists now. And that's where there's a lot of opportunity between SMEs in the Netherlands and SMEs in China. And one of the platforms that June mentioned, his 6 million Tojoy business members are anxious to do business. They have money, they have ability, and they can bring Netherlands companies into their network, as well as Chinese companies who want to come in this direction and looking for capable partners through the BID network. Lots of opportunity. Now, when you think about China, sometimes when you think about business, your mind goes blank, 1.4 billion people. But I usually advocate what I call a city strategy. The city of Shenzhen is equal to the population of the Netherlands. So if you think about Shanghai, Shanghai's population is equal to the population of Australia. So you don't have to be throughout China to do business. You have to pick the right place for your product and service, and then go into those areas where it makes sense. So you don't have to be all over China. Most people can't cover all of China, but you have to think of the clusters. And in the clusters that I've just shown in this slide, there's 600 million people in those clusters. That's double the population of the United States just in those 5 clusters. So targeting your business, whether it's a product or a service, to these particular areas is where you can gain traction. And in China, the big growth right now is in 2nd and 3rd tier cities. 2nd, 3rd, 4th tier cities. Right now, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen are big cities. Beijing is about over 20 million people. Shanghai over 20 million. Shenzhen over 20 million. So these are big areas. But if you have the right product and service, you can go in and be very successful in these areas. So this is Beijing, Tianjin, Hebei area. This is in the north part of China. And that's what Beijing looks like right now. That tall building there is a company called CITIC, China International Trust Investment Corporation. They were a partner in my first joint venture. I was very close friends with the founder, Mr. Rong Yuren. And they went from nothing to a $200 billion company with many areas in real estate and securities and joint ventures and so forth. But I saw them start with a few people, and now they're 300,000 employees of the CITIC group. But when I started, we sat on boxes in a hotel, and now that is their tallest building. Their first building was 25 stories on Chang'an Avenue, which is the main avenue by Tiananmen Square. And that building was 25 stories. The second building that was built in 1984, second building was built in 1995, was 50 stories. And the third building that was just built recently, this is the one in Beijing, is 100 stories. So they doubled it every time they built a new building, but a very important group in China. This is what Shanghai looks like now. And as I mentioned, if you go back here, there's over 100 Dutch companies actively doing business in the Beijing, Tianjin area. In Shanghai, Jiangsu, Zhejiang area, Anhui area, there's over 500 Dutch companies doing business in those areas. Famous companies that you all know here. And in the south part of China, which is where a lot of like Apple products are made in Dongguan and that area, there's over 100 Dutch companies doing business there. I'm trying to think of the name of the group that just got their approval in Shanghai to have their own first foreign-owned company, Aegon, if I said that right, the financial services company, Aegon Insurance, and they were just given on December 31st a license to have their own foreign-owned company in China, which is a big thing. So where are the growth opportunities in China? What I wanted to express to you today is China is a wealthy country and also a developing country at the same time. So there's a lot of room for development in China, a lot of room for business in China. But the big areas are in agri-food products, healthcare. When China have the one-child policy, they have challenges now to take care of their parents. So the parents, assisted living, taking care of the elderly population is a big area of opportunity. And China just opened up that area where you can have actually 100% ownership in businesses in that industry sector. Renewable energy for sure. China's the world's leader in renewable energy right now, but there's a lot of room for cooperation. Healthcare and finance. So there are many, many areas of opportunity, but I think I don't have enough time to really dig down into a deep way into China. I will be here. I'm happy to talk about it. I'm not the theory guy. I'm the hands-on. I set up businesses. I start up the businesses. I get very involved in the business, but I'm not theory. I'm all about if you want to know how to take money, repatriate money out of China, all of those things, there's a lot of misunderstanding. Chinese are open for business. One thing that I can tell all the years I've been in China is there's stability and predictability. I cannot say that too much from where I'm coming from in the country that I'm coming from today. People in business like predictability and stability. China is open for business. It's an exciting place to do business. And I encourage you all to come to the Big Improvement Day cooperation we're going to have with Tojoy in April and see a fantastic country. And also, there's significant opportunities to jump in and do business together in a collaborative way. And I'll just say on the last note, we have to go back to finding areas of common ground. There's plenty of areas we can work on together, all countries with China. And we have to learn how to respect each other and to know how to agree to disagree. And I can't encourage more people-to-people contact. You can't do this through Zoom calls. You have to have face-to-face meetings. And I hope that we can get back to that, not only in my country, but as Yves said, I think that there's a lot of room for this new dynamic of cooperation rather than conflict. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. So we're getting a little behind, but still I have some room for... Is there a burning question from the audience? I will have a question, but do any of you have a question for one of these three gentlemen? Nobody dares after what I said? Yeah. Did anyone, did we all understand that? New ways to build trust?
Yeah, it's a very good question. In fact, we're all struggling in this very dynamic world where politics change every day, and we have to adapt ourselves to that situation. But regardless, I think at the business level, the trust is all about mutually understand each other, and then think about, how we can benefit as a group, work together, and then, taking opportunities together. If that's agreed, and there's always ways where people can work together. In my over 25 years of working with these big multinational companies, there's always different opinions, different ideas. When we talk about how we can cut a win-win deal, how we can work together with each other, there's different opinions. But I always promoted a concept which probably would be a little bored for you guys here. I said, if you want to work with China, then be in China, with China, and think about China, or in an even more aggressive term, for China. So in China, with China, for China. And then at the end of the day, you will get the return. You will be winning together. That's the experience, if I draw, from these 25 years of working for multinationals. I have numerous examples where the companies I work for had numerous challenges and problems, but China has always stood on this side and working together, helping, and then resolve those challenges. So I think for our business people here, let's be realistic. Let's thinking about how we can work together. Then at the end of the day, history will tell that you can win together.
Kejun, thank you so much. And thanks Yves Leterme, thanks Manny. Yes, you can applaud, thank you. These gentlemen will be here the whole day, so please talk to them. We have to continue, thank you again. We have to continue with the program, but they will be there the whole day here, and please speak to them if you want to know more. Thanks again, thank you.